So partly this is a process that really begins at the start of their high school career. Every spring they see seniors give their senior presentations. Every fall they hear seniors propose what they're going to do for their projects. And so the students grow up with this idea, right, that this is a very rigorous and deep undertaking. And then in terms of working directly with them, I meet them in junior seminar in the spring of their junior year, and we spend 2 months basically going over what their initial ideas are for a senior project, how that might look in terms of their final presentation and portfolio, and we go over rubrics which we sometimes redesign together, rubrics for the presentation in the portfolio and the project proposal.
So for any given project, I'll give them sort of a sheet of expectations with the due dates for the different pieces, and I try to break it down, you know, outline first, propose how you're going to share the information, pieces like that, and they get that at the outset. And then that usually turns into some sort of feedback form that I give them at the end. So it's the same requirements, then I write in, you know, yes, you got this, you didn't do that, or whatever. And so sort of the expectations and the assessment are almost the same piece of paper, just word processed a little differently. So, I mean, a lot of times my projects are to fill in a piece of the curriculum that I feel like will just work a lot better if they can each take something that they're interested in. And so I purposely pick sort of topics that are broad enough to bridge, usually like between a couple units. So they, you know, will span over a couple different sections of the curriculum, and then they can kind of find their niche in between that. The overall objectives are always the same as far as being able to go out and research stuff on their own, usually online, being able to then cite that and vet it and make sure it's real science and not, you know, hocus pocus stuff. And some of my projects I explicitly ask them to find fake stuff so they can pull that in. Those are some of my favorite. Kids struggle with that. And then, so the parts that are always there, right, is this being able to come back, explain to the group, and then just to structure either their PowerPoint or their paper. And depending on the course and what other assignments are in there, that may change, right? So it's really sort of a way for me to grab a whole bunch of pieces into one, and then I fill the other parts out with things.
For projects in my classes, it's more often that I'm identifying the project and getting them to do it, or offering them, you know, an option of 3 choices, maybe.
So, I mean, some of them I sort of inherited from other teachers when I first started. For example, right now my students are doing projects on genetic diseases, and that is a project that other teachers all around the country do when they teach genetics, because it's a really interesting one and it allows them to tie in a lot of information into one concise explanation. And then other projects I've done where it's really sort of what are students coming to me with, and that usually takes a year or 2 to cycle into a new project, but pulling in, you know, kids are really interested in sort of synthetic chemistry, like how do you make stuff out of chemicals, or how do you actually you know, use them in an everyday way. That has sort of morphed into the projects I do in my chemistry class, where I'm giving them household stuff and they have to figure out what to do with them. Or cooking. Kids have always been asking questions about how the biochemistry stuff fits into cooking stuff. So now I have a huge cooking project as the capstone for a biochem class. So it's a little bit of both. I mean, there's some sort of borrowing and student interest.
And how would you explain the difference?
A senior project plan will include the basic idea for a project. It will include who might be their mentor, because for a senior project we do encourage an outside expert to be their mentor. It will include the practical steps, you know, how will they pay for it, what will they do during their time? How much time will it take? You know, they break down the calendar for that project. And then they put in an essential question, which, if you like, is the final goal, which is the thing that they want to answer. And so that's how a senior project breaks down.
I mean, depending on how, depends a lot on the level of class, right? I teach all the way from 7th graders sometimes up through 12th graders. So with the class that I've specifically designed for 11th and 12th graders, there I'm really just giving them, here's a standard scientific project and paper and what that would look like, and I help them get to that point. With the other classes that may include 8th graders or 9th graders, I give them very concrete, like, tell me the symptoms of the disease, you know, and I break it down into content so they can start pulling those pieces together. And I'm always sure to leave a sort of broad category where they can pull in stories or acquaintances or personal information, because that's really where I want them to go, hopefully, but a lot of them need that structure of content pieces so they have something that they can pull off the internet and know they got what they're interested in, and then it's me helping them pull out the rest of the connections.
Is there anything else to do?
It's a long process. I mean, basically, the thinking starts with the junior seminar. When they come back from summer break, and we're hoping that through the summer they've been working on it and they come back basically ready to hit the ground. That probably doesn't happen in 50% of cases, but we have a senior seminar, we meet every day, and basically it's step by step. You know, they say, this is what I want to do, and they may start with no idea about, you know, how to begin, and that's my job to facilitate as their senior advisor. And so I'll give them people to call or to write to, and gradually it's like building blocks, you know, we build it from there.
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, my botany class, they actually do gardening they each have a little plot right now that they're working on. And they will share those with the class too, but most of their work is actually hands-on. In my capstone class, they do write a paper as a part of their project. But for the most part, I want the other students to be able to see what each student has done. So I really try to encourage them to have a public sharing. And it means I have to take out, you know, 3 to 4, a whole week of class time for that resharing of information. Not take out, but that's not part of my directed curriculum, right? The kids teach each other for however long it is.
And how do you...
Well, they usually keep a daily or a weekly blog or journal. There's a lot of videotaping and audio taping, and it depends on, you know, what the project is, because almost every single project has a product of some kind that goes with it. And so, you know, we monitor their findings as they go, and then those findings and whatever their experiences have been are put together in a senior portfolio at the end of the project, which is a documentation of what they've done. And there's an hour-long presentation where they usually present a PowerPoint or video, and they present artifacts, and they speak usually for about 45 minutes and then take questions.
So I take that like list of expectations and I write in what the students have done, and I keep a copy of that. I give them a copy and I keep a copy. And then at the end of every semester we have parent-teacher student conferences, and I talk about the project there and the advisor takes notes. So then that winds up in their formal transcript, the much shortened version of this is how their project went.
Right.
A lot of them like doing PowerPoints or Prezis, and so they have that with the notes. I make them fill in the notes sections, so they have that as their digital document, and then I keep it. I have it
evaluated.
And then
they're evaluated at various stages. So they're evaluated by the seniors themselves, who will agree that a senior is ready to go forward and present. Then each senior is matched with a teacher who will help them practice their presentation and help them refine their presentation. And so that teacher kind of evaluates them in the sense that that teacher won't allow them to go forward, right, unless they're ready. And then finally, when they get to the presentation stage, the entire high school votes on whether that project met the standard of a Harmony Senior project. But partly their reflection is supposed to be in their portfolio. When they come, because tomorrow they're coming back from their, it's their official return. They come back in tomorrow lunchtime, and we will meet on Wednesday for a long classroom period, and we go around and each of the seniors reflects on what they've been doing for the last 2 or 3 months. So they get several opportunities. There's that opportunity where they're sharing out what's happened since they've been gone. Then there's the opportunity in the portfolio, and then of course the presentation itself is a reflection on that is their reflection on the entire project.
Almost always there's a question-answer process, so there's some live feedback that can happen from students, from me, and then to the parents it's this ultimate, here's how the project try to always make them last at least a month, so they have a week or 2 to get their proposal outlined together, another week to get some background, and then a draft, and then it takes me, partly it's because it takes me that long to get through. I mean, a class of 14 or whatever projects, it takes me a while to go through each one and get them ready to then present. And sometimes longer. I have semester-long projects also. And then the assessment page, I usually have them self-evaluate and me evaluate, and they get that paper back. Occasionally I have peers evaluate, but that really depends on the class chemistry. I've had that go badly a few times, and so I don't do it all the time. I do it if I know people are going to be helpful.
Thank you so much.